All right, let's dive into MicroStrategy. Because what's happening there is so much more than just a company buying a bunch of Bitcoin. They are actually building an entire financial machine around it. And honestly, it's one of the most ambitious and fascinating things happening in finance right now. Let's break it down.
To really get what's going on, you have to understand its architect, Michael Saylor. And this quote just nails it. He's not just making simple moves, he's thinking way, way down the board. It really feels like he has this long-term vision that sets MicroStrategy completely apart from everyone else. So, what is that grand vision? Well, it all boils down to one core idea, a single, almost obsessive mission that drives every single thing the company does.
And here it is. It's almost deceptively simple. Get more Bitcoin. That's it. While other companies are off diversifying or hedging their bets, Saylor has this laser focus. He's not trying to do 10 things at once. He wakes up and asks one question: how can we get more Bitcoin onto the balance sheet? Everything else is just a tool to achieve that one goal.
Okay, but as you know, focusing on Bitcoin comes with one giant glaring problem. The price is all over the place. It's incredibly volatile. So if you're going to build a stable financial empire on top of that, you first have to figure out how to tame the beast. This analogy is just perfect. It gets right to the core of it. Bitcoin has this immense power, this incredible energy, but it's raw, right? It's unmanaged. You can't just hook that up to the traditional financial grid like a pension fund without some kind of adapter. You'd blow the whole system.
So here's the conflict laid out plain and simple. On one side, you've got the nuclear reactor. That's Bitcoin. It's full of this explosive, unpredictable energy. And on the other, you have the traditional financial grid. Think of pension funds, big investors. They need stability. They need predictable, usable power. The two just don't mix, not directly anyway. So how in the world do you bridge that gap? Well, it seems Saylor took a page out of the history books, finding inspiration in this brilliant piece of old-school engineering from the 18th century that solved a very similar problem. So picture this. It's the late 1700s. Steam engines are the new big thing, but they're dangerous. They could spin out of control, overheat, even explode. Then James Watt invents this thing, the centrifugal governor. It was basically a simple mechanical brain that automatically controlled the engine's speed, turning all that explosive power into something consistent, stable, and useful. And that brings us right back to today, because MicroStrategy has created its own modern financial version of that governor. It's a product called STRC, and its whole job is to take that raw, volatile energy of Bitcoin and transform it into a stable, predictable financial output.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this thing actually work? What are the nuts and bolts? Well, the mechanics are actually pretty clever and straightforward.
It really acts like a two-way valve, and its only job is to keep the price of STRC hovering right around $100. So if the price dips below 100, they can just crank up the dividend they pay out. That makes it more attractive. People buy it, and the price goes back up. And what if it gets too popular and the price rips above 100? Well, they can just issue new shares to meet that demand, which cools the price back down. And the result of this whole mechanism is what's so amazing. You get this stable, almost boring financial product that just sits there around $100. But here's the kicker. This stable thing can kick off a high double-digit dividend that's also tax-deferred. And the craziest part, all of that stability and income is being powered by the volatility of what one source called the most beautifully violent asset on Earth. It's incredible.
But creating this one stable, high-yield product, that's not the endgame. Not even close. It's actually just the first piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. We're talking about a truly massive vision here.
Just look at this number, $300 trillion. That is the rough size of the entire global credit market. We're talking about all the corporate bonds, the government debt, the junk bonds, the whole shebang. And that is the market that Saylor is aiming for. Saylor's argument is that investors aren't buying all these different bonds because they want to. They're doing it because they have to. They're reaching for yield. They have to take on all this risk just to get a decent return. So he asked this really simple question. What if you could give them something that felt like a safe bank account, but it paid a really high yield with none of the usual risks? How much of that $300 trillion would move over? His answer is blunt. All of it. And this is where it all leads, to this new concept he calls digital money. The idea is to use a stable, high-yield instrument like STRC as the building block for a whole new class of financial products. Products that can give investors the returns they're desperate for, but without all the risk they're currently being forced to take.
So, when you put all these pieces together, what you end up with is an entirely new framework for thinking about finance. It's about how Bitcoin, the company itself, and this new financial product all fit together into a perfect system.
In this new world, each piece has a very specific job. It sets a new standard, a new hurdle rate for each of these categories. For long-term saving, the best asset is Bitcoin. For investing and getting leverage on that strategy, you buy MicroStrategy stock, MSTR. And for generating stable, high-yield income, you use STRC. 3 distinct roles, one unified system.
And what's wild is that Saylor believes the system is so perfectly designed that there literally is no second best option for what each part does. It is an incredibly bold, sweeping claim, and it leaves the rest of the financial world with one heck of a question. What if he's actually right?